Okay, looks like we're all set here. So, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Engineering the Markets. My name is Jared, and it is November 7th, 2022. Happy Monday. Welcome back to another week of exciting trade. We've got a lot to cover this morning, so we may as well dive right into it. Kind of talk through some of our open this morning, some expectations this week. We have a couple of things that will drive price activity, probably mostly during the midweek. We're still technically in earnings season, albeit the heavy hitters are mostly out of the way, but plenty of names coming out with some good volatility this earnings cycle. And we've seen a lot of downside in most of our earnings names. Most were within expected move, but certainly some larger than average breaches, both in growth names, some tech plays, and just a lot of future guidance kind of coming off of the table for companies reporting. So, as always, let's start off the week with our expected move. We're going to be looking at the S&P 500 index. We look at the weekly expected move every single week for those who are just joining us for the first time. And what I do is I like to chart these out relative to last week's close. That's where these prices are derived from, along with the previous week's volatility. Was it above, below, or somehow in line with what the option market priced? When we look at last week, it certainly was net bearish for most of the session. We actually started at our high end around Friday's close, previous Friday, of course. And that kind of led to our biggest sell swing once we got through the Fed statement and the subsequent press conference, which was the most precipitous drop that we saw. The expected move last week was approximately 117. You'll notice that Wednesday, Thursday, and a portion of Friday session stayed underneath that expected move low. So we did see both a breach midweek and some of our largest price activity from close to low at about 202 points downside. If we're looking at the total range, about 213 as well. So what this means is our expected move on the week relative to the entire trading range, even though most of it was underneath the mid-range, is still much larger than what the option market is pricing. We're still getting plenty of those bigger than average weeks. We're still seeing the expansion of volatility that's actualized. And while the market was able to rally back near 37.83, you'll notice the actual move was pretty much 130 points from close to close, and that deviation's not too high. It still indicates that throughout the week you're having to either defend or maybe manage one of those legs of a upper or lower option spread. So not much really different there. This is normal relative to what we've been seeing. Plenty of breaches historically, and as we mentioned before, this year has been the year of higher than average actualized volatility. The marketplace, especially the option marketplace, is doing a relatively poor job of pricing this volatility correctly week in and week out. So if we're looking at this week and the week ahead, we were closing at about 3770.55. We're looking at about an expected move of 116. If you look at last week, it's essentially equivalent to last week's volatility. And as we'll see, this is kind of an odd expression of volatility, albeit, we are seeing, some moves back into these ranges near the Friday close. But overall, the breaches and some of the larger than average mid-session volatility. So for example, if I look at just this session here, this session represents a larger than average move, and it also represents the entire weekly's volatility. You know, from high to low, we probably realized over 120 points in the SPX, and it's a showcase that the weekly volatility is not truly expressing the amount of back and forth trade that we're seeing every single week. So I continue to caution, be aware that the short-term volatility series have been a little bit poor in their premium pricing. You may have to defend certain sides of things like condors or just volatility expressed spreads. And overall, sticking closer to maybe like a back month series to find a little bit more skew and a little bit more edge, trying to stay away from some of the short-term whipsaw that we have been experiencing. So that is where I'll leave that topic for now. As I go back into the SPY and just kind of zoom in to what we've been focused in on, let me go here. As you'll know, last week we did break our hourly uptrend. We lost our sort of bullish channel of price activity definition. And more importantly, we broke away from that September balance range. You'll note the highs and the lows have defined pretty important inflection points, especially the highs, which ended this particular rally. So while we are looking for that edge in the market, I think we need to be careful in the middle. Usually this is where traders can get quite anxious about what is the best price to be accurate, what are some areas to consider a short versus a long. You know, there really isn't one clear directional bias when most trends are showcasing bearishness, but we do have a couple of bullish recovery plays in favor. As I pull up a volume profile here, I think the key that I'm looking for both today and probably the rest of the week is what is price activity doing underneath where we sold from. And this is both true on the actual breakdown. You'll notice this particular level is kind of the one I'm most focused on, that 382.11. Where am I getting that? That's going to be your September balance range lows. It's approximately September 16th. That particular price represents a gap down. It represents where the market sort of collapsed from some more speculative trend line support. And it also represents a 3-day area with one of the larger breaches that we've seen in previous history. So to see that similar structure, the breakdown, and the idea that we could back test it a little sooner than what we saw more recently means that I'm still interested in short play in this particular market. I don't think things are fully alleviated. I don't think we can be pure bullish in this market anymore. And as traders, I think there's been lots of opportunity on both sides. It really isn't just a one-sided market at this point in time. So for today, you'll notice on the volume profile, there's a bit of a void in price activity in this approximate region. Kind of an oddity. Most of the time you do see trade kind of cover up these areas, especially since we've been trading between 350 and 390 for what is equivalent to about a month and a half at this point. So it's a little odd to see these pockets whenever the trade has been encapsulated here. But I think it's more conducive to a lot more volume is placed at different price levels. Not that 380 region is unimportant, but it's been one of the fewer transacted regions more previously. And this is true if I even back it up slightly. you'll notice that as I kind of zoom in once again, there's a bit of a void here before you see like that full shelf of volume start to return. It's kind of hard to see on this time frame, but you'll note that as far as pockets of volume are concerned, that's probably the largest one we need to worry about outside of this region here, which you'll note price actually moved away from on Friday. So as a bull, I want there to be little to no resistance if I'm going to play bullish. And if I am playing into resistance, I want it to break. I want there to be volume to get me out of these regions and to avoid the potential of price coming back in my face. So pockets are good for this. They are essentially like gap structures in the market. And whenever we do have at least a short-term trend, we can try and play into these regions with the idea that they might transist through them or transact through them very quickly, just to get to the next zone of value or the next area of resistance for the market. So bull today, the bullish thesis today is that we actually kind of transact through this area. Which gives us plenty of room for opportunity. That would essentially be about a 5-point move in the S&Ps. I'd be looking to try and get as much of that as possible so long as there's a trend in my favor. As a bear, I think anywhere the price rejects on this back test is an opportunity. Ultimately, we are breaking the hourly trend. The hourly trend is not going to recover in this region. It's very choppy and back and forth trades, not as clear of the trend structure. And as we know, our weekly trend is still bearish. I would argue that our daily trend is neutral to bearish at this point. And bigger picture, construction of the chart showcases that there still might be a downside play, even if it has to be initiated in a position of strength. The idea of a back test is you kind of short the lower high. You're trying to find a lower high setup on the time frame in question. So as a bear, as I mentioned, we could easily reject here, just kind of topping out near Friday's highs. But even as we go bullish into this pocket, I'd still be interested in that bearish play once we get to about 382. The volume shelf indicates that would be a great place to take profit as a bull, but it also means that I might want to flip, assuming that the price is showcasing weakness and obviously changing our short-term trends. Another reason I might consider that is some of the volatility this week. And as we kind of shift our discussion away from the chart, this is kind of a more interesting topic, not to say that it's actionable, but it's a little bit more rare in its occurrence. So I wanted to call it out. As most of us know, we do have midterm elections in the US. That is going to basically commence this evening. That'll cycle into tomorrow. And for the rest of the week, assuming it were a binary event, the marketplace should be pricing that volatility relative to the series that it's going to occur in. And as we know, the SPX is now offering daily series for every trading session each week, or each week. So we actually have a little bit of a representation of where volatility exists. Is it today? Is it tomorrow? Where exactly does the IV start to creep up? And what's interesting about this reading is we certainly have the high IV readings today. That is showcasing the marketplace knows that there's some binary activity. They want to, increase the price for protection, for premium, for insurance, however you want to think about how options work. And then for the next 2 days, it kind of normalizes. I'd expect this even to drop once we know a bit more this afternoon. But I would also call out these two readings here. As far as I'm aware, as we get into the later cycle this week, I'll pull up Trading Terminal to kind of showcase it here. Not sure if that's exactly true that there's nothing. Let me pull this up real quick. Yes, let me pull this in right here and just show the econ activity. So the thing that kind of stands out is our Thursday and Friday volatility. At least as of now, the market is indicating that the SPX has just as much, and likely by the time we get there, more volatility Thursday and Friday relative to things like CPI, relative to things like jobless claims coming up. These more, I would say, continuous binary events that we keep having to track just because of the type of marketplace that we're in and how sensitive the Fed and other bodies, entities are responding to it. The market says that the volatility is more important or more elevated relative to that. And it's a little bit of an oddity because obviously these numbers are lower. This is definitely the highest number. But think about as the week goes on, as long as this stays high, it's likely that they could start to bid this up once again, especially once the midterm election cycle is sort of known and no longer needing to be hedged. So interesting structure for volatility. You don't normally see multiple distributions of higher IV throughout the week. And I'd also want to kind of look at this through other products. The SPX to me is still like the deciding factor. But if you look at something like the SPY at 38% showcasing today, nothing of note on Wednesday. And remember, SPY doesn't have the same series as the SPX. But then all of a sudden a 35% on Friday. So I would say the market is giving as much, if not slightly more interest and definitely respect to some of our data drops later this week. Not to say that that's, like I said, it's not an actionable event, but it is something to keep in mind if you are trading short-term options this week. Some of your skew might be a little off, especially if you're kind of spreading out through different series. You might actually want to try and be a seller of premium relative to some of the higher reading series, and then try and hedge some of that risk later, maybe even into next week. The reason being is these are very similar to earnings. The market should move on some of this news, but this IV should come out very quickly, especially with the election. This one right here may be more in place until about Friday. And as a premium seller, you want those readings. You want to basically sell the risk, but to hedge the potential of a breach or something more dramatic, going out later in time also gives you the benefit of lower volatility. And that would be if you're placing the trade at the same time. Another way you could do it is just leave any sort of premium selling active in this week and then wait for that event to be over. You could hedge out in a further series, assuming there is a more dramatic breach, anything that's larger than the expected move for each of these series. They all have their own respective expected move, and a premium seller would be kind of playing the edges of that expected move, expecting that the market will stay in the range. So, like I said, not actionable, something to note. Don't be confused by it. There's reasons behind those readings. And ultimately just something very rare. I don't see that very often. more so when you have multiple binary type events and known data drops, things that are going to move the marketplace. Okay. As we kind of shift into just our risk elements really quickly, I'm not going to speak too much on these because the cycle has been kind of obvious to draw. So we're seeing more results as opposed to new information. I would argue the dollar is in weekly consolidation. We've broken the structure of the uptrend. We've even technically back tested at this point, albeit we haven't necessarily made a fresh low. Notice the volatility here. This is a pretty dramatic drop on Friday for the dollar. And if you were in attendance during the Florida webinar or seminar series, we discussed a lot of the inverse correlation going on, specifically with things like gold. You'll notice gold had pretty much one of the strongest sessions in a long time, and the dollar, subsequently had one of its weakest. Same thing with silver, bit more relative strength in silver, holding above support, but still range trading high to low. So you think about mapping the correlation here and some of the swings, they pretty much are in line with the highs and lows of the dollar, albeit inverse. So gold and silver to me are trading pretty much in respect to those bigger swings, and it kind of tells me that the main driver has been dollar performance, albeit there are some nuances in between. Volatility, just kind of looking at this, we're basically mid-range here. I've kept on this kind of rough trend line that has cut through the price over time, but still kind of represents the area of demand or just relative support in something like the VIX. You can kind of bring it out bigger picture to see where that starts. What was I saying? Any correlation here to some of our model representations of the market? Remember, not saying this is the actual marketplace, but we are looking at things like 2008 corollaries, 1973 corollaries. There really wasn't the same VIX at that time. Same thing with 2008. But if you're looking at these corollaries, the time frame of price and the time frame relative to the VIX, we're somewhere in this region. If I bring up the SPY on this time frame, we would essentially be anchored by price to the end of July. And as I kind of bring that up and shift back here, just kind of showcasing this flagging pattern. Actually, it's a little bit later. It's a little bit August, kind of mid-August, actually. The reason I bring this up is because this is our model. I'm assuming a model here because of some of the technical interaction, but I've continuously marked kind of the price region that I assume to be in, both by time, by some of the moving average interaction, the retracement size. A good flag should only retrace so much of a previous swing. And then the idea that if this becomes true, the idea is that this entire region of price will be lost at some point, the eventual sell swing that we got in 2008. Obviously, that is for time to tell. But if you are still looking short biased, it gives you a sense that anywhere in this area, if you're putting on something for a couple of months, maybe a downside vertical, some puts, anything that's going to take advantage of maybe a faster sell swing. Hopefully this would be a little bit faster in momentum, just for that, expression of premium. Those would be great ways to take advantage of it. And the price alignment is starting to allocate itself for the downside, and everything's starting to line up accordingly. It also gives us an idea that if we ever breach things like that 390 region with some volume, it starts to break the model a little bit. Things start to not quite look the same, and the correlation can actually deviate a bit. Not to say that the market can't go lower afterwards, but I would assume that this 390 region becomes a bit of a if-then scenario. If we continue to hold it as resistance, lower highs, and potentially a more weakened downtrend, especially with our moving averages kind of compressing here, we're under the 50. We're not necessarily under the short-term 20, but breaking all three, and our 200, of course, way above us. That really brings us back into that period of weak looking charts. What are the assets that might get us there? Apple. I know last Friday was a bounce off of some CPI low support, but look at the weekly and just kind of tell me, would you really buy that chart and assume that it's going to clear the pivot highs? Or do you assume this is a moment of time for a stall and the eventual maybe pull down in the future? Apple's chart is really lining up kind of weak, and we're starting to see that alignment of bigger time frames not necessarily holding well. The price was certainly volatile on Friday. And then, as y'all know, another stock that's kind of in question here would be Tesla. Certainly holding 200 support for now. Definitely a great trader given the volatility, but big picture, what stocks are going to continue to mark down that haven't already been marked down in the S&Ps, with energy leading, healthcare kind of holding, financials having sort of a neutral stance. I still think the pain really comes through in discretionaries, in technology, and then communication with stocks like Meta and Alphabet. Last but not least, just a quick look at bonds here. I'm not going to spend too much time because I'm running low on time here. We saw some mean reversion play. Our short-term downtrend still remains. We're very much anchored to that 20 period. I'll be looking for this to maybe base out a bit, but overall, lots of kind of question as to whether or not we're going to see a low in the bond market at any time soon. And, with that, the obvious momentum and speed of rates, something like a 10-year cresting back above 4% last week. So lots of just short-term volatility, both off the highs and then back into a position of trend, which in this case, the bond market technically is still in a very strong and relatively consistent trend. So with all that said, my name is Jared. We're going to talk through a lot of this week and maybe put on some trade ideas. I think I'm at a point where we could show some positions getting placed. As always, if you like the content, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned for pre-market prep. Hopefully we have some volatility today before we get into the thick of things. And as always, trade safe. I'll see you tomorrow, and we'll talk more then.
right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the pre-market prep. I hope you're having an amazing morning. Hope that you had an incredible weekend. Good morning, Peter. How you doing today?
Good morning, Carlos. I am doing fantastic. Hopefully, you are also doing great.
Yes, yes, doing very good this morning. Had a great weekend. Hope you did as well. Um, and yeah, Peter, by the way, is covering for Norm. Norm is out at sea. I know he tweeted some pictures out of him passing through some massive ships. So hope that he is well. Um, All right, guys, let's get to it. Let's look at our gappers list really quickly. Just going through some of these on here. We got a lot of stuff in the green this morning. Not great tickers, all of them. Some that we saw last week. And of course, our usual suspects like Neo, Bailey are on here. Well, not usual suspects because we don't trade them that well, but usually on this list and very active. So we'll get to those and see what's happening there. And then on the downside of things, not a whole lot. A couple of tickers here that these are really all over the place. Besides PBR can be decent at times. So we'll take a look at what's happening there. Before we get into that, Peter, do you have a market post for us? Don't mind, by the way, the sidebar here. That's U.S. economic calendar. That was actually last week. As you guys know, Norm is the one that updates that.
Yeah. Look, if you attended engineering the markets just a few minutes ago, uh, Jared did a great job of sort of going over. We are largely in a wait pattern. So today on the economic calendar, not much going on. This afternoon, there's a consumer credit number that's coming out. We do have the Cleveland Fed that's talking at 3:45. That's it during market hours. Neither of those should have any noticeable market impact. Really, we're waiting. The election cycle has begun in the U.S., which, by the way, for a non-American, seems utterly ridiculous to me. But welcome to the U.S. electoral process. Um, but it's just to do this for 2 years, every 2 years, just seems nuts. But anyways. Um, so, but from a market perspective, it should mean that we're not going to see direct news that's going to impact that. Indirectly, I think we're going to see slightly lower volumes, maybe some muted price action. Who knows? Anything can happen. We're going to get to our gappers list in a second, but we're already seeing, there's some noise out there that's causing a couple of things to move. So I think our best bet is to find a stock that you like to follow today, and hopefully it'll be one that moves for you. But yeah, nothing big on the calendar.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that as well, Peter. All right, let's get to our gappers list, guys. Let's go in here and see what we can pull out of this list today. But I agree with you also. I mean, it's a lot's going to depend on, you watching the tickers that you like and your favorite stocks. And it has been like that for some time, by the way. I mean, yes, we're preparing our gappers list, but once we get to our usual suspect, Apple, AMD for you, of course, Nvidia, these have been trading very well. Even Neo, up to a certain extent, as far as whatever's going on with China, which they're up today 3.6, that has been very active as well the last couple of weeks, really. So yeah, let's dive into our gap up. All right, first one on the list, OYST just popped up. I'm assuming because it wasn't here earlier, and yeah, this looks horrible. Up 36%. It's just getting value. I mean, this just happened. So let's give it a little time. Low float.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just in case people care, there was a little bit of news that they're going to be acquired. So there is a tender offer for $11, which is why it's popping up to about that level. So
Okay.
uh, wait a second,
It's a
eleven
offering.
dollars. $11 per share plus a potential cash payment of $2 per share. So okay, so that's why it's slightly above 11. So it's sort of 11 plus 2 pending some performance activity. So, but what happens with acquisitions, as we've said in the past, but if you're new, they usually jump up to a level like we're seeing here on OYST, and then just hang around that level for the rest of the day. So you can't really expect too much interesting price action on it.
Yeah, yeah, agree. So I think that's not going to be a great trader for today. Let's move on down to DWAC this morning, and they are up. Wow, 25% and as high as 30 this morning. So what's the news on this one today?
So, if anybody's familiar with this company, this is the shell company, Digital World Acquisitions, under which Trump's Truth Media is I guess aligned. So, whenever there's sort of news in an electoral cycle, especially if Trump is making noise, then we now have a focus company that's going to move as a result, and that's what you're seeing here today. So, this is not a political statement whatsoever. It's just when he sort of addresses the public, you're going to expect DWAC to start to move. So this actually could be interesting today. Like, we're already seeing 2 million shares, like you pointed out, up 24% right now, was up as high as 30. So, hey, look, as long as it
Yeah.
moves, it might give us some trading opportunities. So we'll have to see what happens. The challenge or the risk you might face on this is that you just never know when the next statement will be made, which could cause this thing to move erratically. So if you're trying to do a pattern-based trading strategy, it might be very difficult on this type of stock because it could just move, one way or the other, depending on how people perceive a statement that is made at any point in time.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So guys, this one in play today. Again, I'm not a huge fan of the way this moves, but today, I mean, with the 2 million up 24%, definitely got something going on here this morning. So we'll keep an eye on this one. Next one, HKD. I am definitely not a fan of this stuff here. This is horrible. It is up 8% today. I mean, I don't really care what the numbers are. I don't even know why I'm reading them. They're just so bad. Any news?
Well, this is a relatively recent IPO, and since it's IPO'd, if you sort of look at the daily back to the beginning of time, you can see it's had
Yeah.
these moments of, look at that big jump that happened in August, and then again mid-September. I mean, that was a
Yeah.
pretty big move. It doesn't look big because we had this ridiculous move up to
Yeah.
2,400, but if you actually look at the size of those candles in September, I mean, the thing more than, like, I don't know, it went up like 10 times, right? 40 to
It's
like 300,
$40.
right?
Yeah, and this is
Yeah,
like 400
so
something.
right. So you've got actually some big daily moves that have been happening on HKD a lot, but it gets hidden because you have this crazy, crazy candle day. I remember when that happened. It was just insanity. So this is another high risk stock. I don't see really any real news as to why it's moving today. You never do, though, right? This thing just goes nuts on a certain day, and I mean, they do have some news about adding some brands to their company, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that causing it to move today?
I don't believe anything these guys do. I mean, this
I,
is just insane.
yeah, this is definitely one Norm would like be like
Yeah, no,
not spending any time on.
this is crazy. I mean, guys, $40 to what is this? 291, 284 with 1.7 million shares traded. No. That's just disastrous. Let's go on to ENVX this morning. These guys, they were heavily in play last week. Actually, I took a trade on this and actually turned out pretty nice on 2 days here on the short, and I believe the day after. But today they're up 8.5, 117,000. Again, maybe looking to close this gap. Not a great trader, but the last couple of days they've been seeing some slight increase in volume. Again, spread is horrible right now. I'm not sure how well this is going to be after the volume continues to die down here. So won't add it to my
Yeah,
list right now.
the only news today isn't that great. Some boardroom appointments that are happening that I saw this morning, but that doesn't typically have a long lasting effect on a stock.
Yeah, that's not gonna be a great catalyst, especially after I think it was I forgot what it was, earnings or something dropped them so bad there. BTU, we've seen in the past plenty of times. Not a big fan of this one. Doesn't trade very well. I'm gonna move down to a IAA. This is also not looking great. Up 5%. Very light on volume, guys. And if you look at the daily here, we barely get any volume on this. So today we're not seeing anything that looks great besides how wide this range is, 39.50 all the way up to 44. I mean, that's crazy, but yeah, they're not looking that good.
Yeah, this is another acquisition news this morning. It looks like there's been an offer, not an accepted offer, but an offer to buy the company for, looks like it's 46.88 a share is is what that offer is. So $7.3 billion deal. But like we said, acquisitions tend to be difficult. Now, in this one, just keep in mind, it's an offer that's been made but not accepted. So notice the price has moved up here, but hanging out below this 46.88. So if we get some news today that the offer has been accepted, or there's a counter offer, or gets rejected, then the stock could move. But you're sort of hanging around waiting for some good news that could make this move. So not the type of stock I personally like to trade.
Yeah, we won't be looking at that. All right, so we got some Chinese tickers coming in. We got XBEV, Neo, Lee, Billy, and someone in chat. Also, Andrew F mentioned JD, so we'll look at those. Let's see, XBEV this morning, again, 1.4. So they got the volume, right? They gapped up 5.3. It's just been moving sideways the entire morning, so not a whole lot going on there. A lot of these Chinese tickers, again, been beat up quite a bit. They're finding some kind of base in the last couple of days. And you've been seeing a little gap up on these XPEV. I know Neo did the same thing here. Baba as well. Where's Baba? Here it is on the list. So they've been getting some positive news, and a lot of it has to do with the lockdown over there, as well as the government, right? Just kind of putting several restrictions and not really helping these guys get moving. So out of all of these, Neo is one of my favorite guys. I mean, it has great volume already, 2.2 million shares traded. So I'll definitely be watching this one. Baba is the other one I like, and this morning as well, 800,000 with 2.3. I'm going to put these guys as a possible, and then let's take a look at JD since you mentioned that. See, the issue with JD for me is the volume seems to be one of the lightest out of all of these. So again, similar setup, right? And they're all the same news, so you can really, if you want to trade JD, just look for the exact same news and the same setup that are happening in other tickers that have more volume, like Billy. Like Neo, like Baba. It's the same setup. Even XBEV to a certain extent has the same setup and is trading on the same news, unless there's something specific to JD that I'm not aware of. But the overall picture of these Chinese stocks has been, just the COVID shutdowns and the government and elections over there and all that stuff happening. So
increasingly over the last, I would say, like few weeks to a month or so, we're seeing the Chinese stocks move as a block. It used to be you could get some independent movement on a Neo or an XPEV or even Baba, some of the ones that we like to watch. Nowadays, they all tend to move the same, especially, there's a lot of concerns news, I should say, coming out of China that's usually nationalistic and political, and that's causing the entire block to move. So I love this morning that pretty much all the articles are saying, hey, the Chinese stocks are up today. Here's why it doesn't make any sense. So it doesn't matter if it makes sense or not, right? The fact that they're moving up, just be aware of that, right? And if you like these to trade, then there may be an opportunity there. Like I like watching Neo, XPEV, and Baba would be the three that I keep a primary eye on, but doesn't mean they're going to do anything special. They just happen to be trending up pre-market. And this volume is pretty typical, I guess, if you're watching it too, Carlos. See, like 800,000 shares is good, not terribly exceptional.
Right, exactly. So I like you said, I like Neo and I like Baba for both of these Chinese possible plays. They get great volume and they trade well, guys. When they get going in one direction, especially Neo has been trading very well the last couple of weeks. So ending the gap up list here, SE we've seen on our list plenty of times. This is C Limited. They trade horrible. They're not a great intraday trading stock, so I usually stay away from putting that on my list. We have Meta. Yeah, Meta is definitely going on my list. Any news out of Meta, the metaverse camp today?
It's funny. There's news every day about the metaverse, right? And I love the debate that's going on that, this whole metaverse thing. Should we care? Why would we care? What's the big deal? What? And I think that it's playing right into their hands. If enough people are talking about why they shouldn't care, you'll eventually end up caring. Anyways, I just find that humorous as an aside. But specific news, there's really nothing I see that should move the company today. There's some job cuts happening in Meta, right? That were announced after their disappointing last quarter. When you look at the size of the job cuts compared to the size of the company and their workforce, it is not really that appreciable. It's just something that grabs a headline. There is some, I guess in sundry news about cuts in production for Apple, which when Apple shows production cuts, this sector tends to move down. The Microsoft, the Meta, the Amazon, I find.
Hmm.
But that's it, right? So we'll see. Meta's actually been a good trader, better than it used
Yeah.
to be. Like ever since it's changed symbol and the price is where it's at. I don't mind keeping an eye on it because you never know when it's going to trade well. Same thing
Yeah,
with Amazon.
I agree, especially after this drop here. I mean, after this drop, we have seen a huge
Yeah.
increase in volume compared to what they normally do. Again,
Mhm.
job cuts for the overall market investors, they like that. So that could be a positive for them today. So, all right, they're up here 3.1, 1.6, definitely on the list this morning. All right. What else we have? I think that's it, right? On the gap up, gap down, we have VERV, which looks not great, down 23%. Again, nice gap down, but the pre-market action is horrible. Any news on this, Peter? Worth watching this?
It's one of these therapeutic companies, right? Verve Therapeutics. So I don't. They gave a regulatory updates, which I didn't dig into, so I don't know. Presumably that was not good news, but
Yeah.
um, yeah. But that's all I know.
All right. So yeah, it doesn't look great. Let's skip on to GSK. I think someone mentioned this in chat too, right? So they sort of trading terminal. Uh, if I read that correctly. So GSK right now, this one, I mean, we have seen this many times in the past. I have not traded it. I think it trades poorly. It is down 3% this morning, 300,000 shares traded, barely, almost there. Um, Peter, any news on this? I mean, it is active today. I just don't know if it's going to be a great one for us to
Yeah,
take
this is
advantage
the
of.
type of stock, like you said, I don't like trading it. I usually just avoid it because I know this is dual traded here and in the UK. So that usually causes some challenges, right? Because it then moves sort of in concert with a market that we're not keeping an eye on. I don't see any news specifically though why this is getting some attention today. There was over the weekend, I think, some news about they had a cancer drug that fails its main goal, but it was like very early stage. I can't see that. Like I don't think they were staking the future on that drug, but it did.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they did have some bad news, anyways. That could be what's causing a few people to decide that it's time to move out of it.
Yeah, they're down 3%. Maybe there's some more downside to this, to some key levels here on the daily. I'll put it as a possible. I do like the pre-market action. I mean, we got some volume today. It's down 3%. We'll have to see how this one goes. All right, that covers our gap up and gap down list. PBR is coming up here. PBR active the last couple of days with some good volume. For the most part here on Friday, actually did very well. And I think even Thursday traded very nice also. Um, this morning we're down 2.1. Again, pretty much sideways at the moment. We'll put it as a possible. I do like the daily on this for a possible breakdown. If we can get going here, we got some levels we can test here that were recently some support there, but we'll have to see. All right, Peter, what do you like this morning on your list?
Three that I'll mention. AMD, got to mention AMD. It's been moving fairly well. Actually, if you look at a daily, I like where AMD is sitting. This has the potential to move if we get support from the market, move up, that is. But we'll have to wait and see what the day brings us. And, I just always watch it. Anyways, the second is Apple. A lot of news on Apple recently, and Apple has there was a magical $150 price level that Apple continually had it would circle around that consistently, and it would keep coming back to that 150 level. Now we're well below it right now, and quite a bit below it. Here at about 136, I think, something right now.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you look, we're at the lows that were set back in mid-October last month. So we might actually drop this level, or if we see the supporters come in, we could rally. But either way, Apple could be a good trader today in my mind. So that's the second one, and the third one will be Tesla. I found it fascinating this weekend. I just saw so many articles about people saying, is the love affair with Elon over? Has he just shown that he's crazy and not brilliant, and like sort of questioning his ability to manage Twitter? So you can't invest in, Twitter's nothing to watch anymore because it's been pulled off the market now that he's privatized it. But there's been a lot of news about him firing a lot of the staff, and then making job offers back to him. He's going, whoops, fired too many people, got to hire them back. So all of that stuff has absolutely or nothing directly to do with Tesla, but Tesla's the company people can trade against. So as we hear more stuff coming out on Twitter, just keep that in mind, that while it directly has nothing to do with Tesla, that confidence in Elon as a leader and the concern over him being distracted, making false moves, having to use his massive position in Tesla to fund the activities in Twitter, all of that has an impact. So Tesla is the other one I'm going to keep an eye on.
It's so funny that you mentioned that, because I feel like people think that this guy, one of the smartest person probably in the world, doesn't have like managers that probably run the day-to-day stuff. Like, I'm sure he has his people that are taking care of this. I mean, you can't run Tesla and tweet as much as you do. You can't do both, right? So he has his people running it. I'm sure it'll be fine. But I get it. People are going to link those two and just overreact to things. It's so funny. But here it is, guys. Tesla, 1 million shares traded. It is pretty much flat at the moment. And we're slightly above some levels of price support that we had here in the past. So yeah, it could be interesting, and always a great trader, by the way. Oh, where is my... I don't see my YouTube friends, guys. Hold on a second. I got to bring up my YouTube friends.
Go.
I just noticed.
And Jimmy,
I don't
anyways, we don't need to get a debate about Elon, but it's fascinating to me. Like, he's a great case study of someone, like, he's just not a fully rounded individual, which causes problems, but not all of us are. I've had the chance to work with a lot of CEOs and executives, and almost to a person, they have sort of a fatal flaw, a big blind spot, where you need a team that will sort of fill in the gaps where you're not an expert. So I think Elon personally is actually really brilliant, but it doesn't mean that he's socially aware, or it doesn't mean like he's brilliant in very certain areas, but very ineffective or dumb, if you will, in other areas. So you don't get to where you are if you don't have some capability. So it's a little rich for us sitting here to be criticizing the richest person on the planet, and I'm not sure if he still is anymore, but but we have to keep in mind, right? He could make very serious missteps, and because of the size of the challenges he's undertaken, right, it gives us big opportunities to criticize and potentially profit or lose money one way or the other. So just keep that stuff in mind, right? That's it's fascinating to watch people who are operating at these massive levels, and if his ego gets too big, for instance, and Carlos, to what you're saying, and he fails to listen to these advisors, that's when things could really go off the rails. So we'll just see what happens. Like, either way, like, we're day traders, right? So our job here is to figure out where the stocks are going to go and what is the news that we're hearing doing potentially to the stock that we can take advantage of either way. That's really the job, one way or the other. So you got to be careful in that. Like, I have a company that I used to work for out there that I don't trade because I'm too emotionally invested. So if you find yourself emotionally invested in a stock, it's actually a good idea to not trade it. As much because you may make decisions that aren't based on the facts presented to you. It's based on your beliefs, right? So and that can be problematic. So anyways, there's my lecture.
You don't want to have a bias one way or the other,
right,
when it comes to day trading specifically. All right, guys, let's get to it. What do you guys like this morning? We'll start here in our chat room, then we'll go over to our YouTube chat and see what's going on there. Guys, if you haven't done so already, hit that thumbs up over on YouTube. We appreciate it very much. It does help us out a whole bunch. So thank you for that, guys. All right, let's start here. What do we have? Manual PDL. Neil's good daily. Yeah, I like Neil, guys. Good volume. Again, all these Chinese tickers moving, as Peter said it best, as a block, right? Baba, JD, Billy, all of these. But if you look at Neo and Baba, they have the better volume most of the time. Actually, 9 times out of 10 they do. And Neo can trade very well, especially after 15 minutes. It can be very explosive and head. And if it picks a direction, it can actually trade very well. And we've taken a couple of trades in the last couple of like 2 weeks or so that have been really good. So Neo is good. GCT. What is GCT? What is this? Okay, lower price stock, GCT this morning. All right, very, very active right now. We are up 37%. Looks like it got halted, I'm assuming for news. So we haven't looked at this one. We'll see what the news is on it. But right now, guys, again, looking pretty good. Crazy volume at the moment. What is the float on this? I'm assuming it's going to be a little low. Yeah, 8 million shares flow, but this is looking good, guys. This can be the low flow of the day. And as I remind everyone, and of course our newer viewers or traders, this is a low flow stock. You got to be extremely careful. And if you're new, just don't trade it. You can watch it, experience what happens, but don't trade this stuff. You need a level of experience when it comes to trading these lower flow stocks, right? And if you must feel like you have to join the action, take 2 shares, right? And you can partial out twice and you'll be good to go. But again, just can't stress how careful you have to be.
There you go. If you could bring up PLTR for a second, had an
Yeah.
interesting question from Cedric in our room, and he's asking, "Hey, is PLTR sort of good to trade?" PLTR, if you can pull up a 1 minute chart for me, this is the type. And we've said this before, but for anybody that might be new, PLTR used to be a great trader, right? We loved to trade it, and it was doing really well. Even pre-market, it's just a good example. When you look at the 1 minute chart and you see a pattern that looks like this, see these tiny little candles that they're 1 penny wide, and sometimes they even have wicks within the penny. That to me shows a stock where you don't have a lot of retail trading. It's computers, it's the algos that are trading it, right? Which we know that 80+% of the volume of the market is traded by algos, and so that's just fine. That happens on every stock. But what you need is the retail traders or the big orders or that stuff to happen that gives you good trading patterns. When you see a stock like PLTR at any time of the day, my advice would be to avoid it. You're really only trading against computers, and it makes it very difficult to win. And it makes, especially if you're doing pattern-based trading or level-based trading, these will not respect it very well. So my advice would be, when you see these type of tiny little candles, stay away.
Absolutely, not good. But our YouTube chat is on fire with the Elon Musk comments. So we got some fun happening there. Regardless of your position on Elon, I just got to say, just think about this, right? He does this with Twitter. He's a very smart man. When he says this ridiculous tweets, I guess everybody pumped up and want to respond. Think about what he's doing. He's keeping you on the platform whether you like it or not. You're on the platform, or like him or not. You're on the platform, you're responding. Who wins when that happens? Twitter does, right? He does. So it's a smart guy, very, very smart guy. All right, guys, let's get to it. Anything else from our chat room? PLTR, RDFN, RDFN, RDFN. I don't think I ever heard of this ticker. Oh, no.
Redfin. Yeah, we've traded this before, or at least it's come up before, but it's a $4 stock, and like we were just talking about, right? Look at this terrible price action.
Yeah, not a big fan. Half finger, good to see you, my friend. XPEF, yeah, you can watch XPEF. I'm gonna keep an eye on Neo and Baba instead. I prefer those two, but XPEF is one that you can keep an eye on. Let's take a look at Amazon here. Amazon is one of our usual suspects, and it has been trading well. I'm surprised how much Amazon has dropped over the last couple of days after this gap down, right? And if you look at the SPY, I don't think the SPY has even dropped that much, right? We dropped a little bit, we bounced. They just kept dropping. So it has not been great for them. They're up 1% this morning. I think eventually, if we see some more strength in the market, I think Amazon has some pretty good levels to get to. So I definitely like them on my list this morning, and they do have great volume as well. All right, let's head over to our YouTube chat, guys. What do you guys like over here on YouTube? Besides Tesla and Elon, that's all I see. Let's see what else. What else you guys are looking at today? I'm gonna scroll up and VERU. Let's see here. I think this is this a foreign ticker, or am I confusing it with something else? I might be confusing it with something else. Oh no, man, this does not look great. Look at this daily too. This daily is really all over the place, very choppy. You're not getting great volume. Even now with this 495, it looks like maybe they had earnings or something. Something's moving them like this. But it doesn't look great for the type of stocks that I'm going to be looking for this morning, right? Compare this to like a Neo, Meta, or anything else. It looks a little tough to trade. Not saying that you're not going to get a great move, but if I have to be picky, this will not be one on my list here. Now, what does anybody know the catalyst? Do we have a good catalyst this morning that is causing this to move? It looks like it wants to break out of 12 here, back up to
Yeah,
some of the
I don't
highs
see
here.
any news on it, so
Hmm.
I don't know. I mean, if somebody has news, let us know. But yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
seeing anything.
Okay. So in that case, be careful, guys, if there's no news on this thing. Um, yeah, up. It's moving very aggressively now. Look at this pop into 12. Just for entertainment purposes. We'll put it as a secondary. It's up 10% here. There's got to be something going on. I doubt this is just moving on its own. Release briefing documents ahead of Pulmonary Allergy Drugs Advisory Committee. Thank you, Stock Pigeon. And I'm not making fun of him. That's his name, by the way, over on our on our chat, if you're wondering. All right. VREU, we'll keep that on there. And PayPal and United Airlines will do these last two. Then we'll head over to community events and announcement for this week. PayPal is pretty quiet right now. It was great last week, by the way. We had tons of days where this thing traded very well, including Friday with that recovery. Right now, it's very quiet. This could be a good secondary, though, after the moves it has done on the daily. So we'll fine tune this list a little more. That could be exciting. United Airlines. You know what? The airlines have not been all that great. I think they had their earnings, right? I think it was Delta had their earnings already, and a few other ones. Outside of that, I haven't seen really good moves on these airlines yet. So I don't think they're really in play. Just checking all of them here, and their volume is extremely light, especially United Airlines, only 50,000 shares traded. So their daily looks interesting, but that type of pre-market volume is not going to be great. All right, guys, let's head over
So,
to yeah, go ahead.
oh, two comments, if I can make quickly, then to answer
Yes.
questions that people have asked. Robert in the room mentioned Oxy. It's funny, I was going to mention Oxy. It's been a good proxy for the oil and gas sector. Usually after the weekend, we see a move on Oxy. It's sitting up towards the highs here once again. So, not seeing a lot of volume pre-market. Like, it doesn't look good yet. But it might be worth keeping an eye on, especially with election news. That tends to, move the sector as people make statements and promises about what's going to be happening with gas prices in the oil and gas sector. So certainly you can't really go wrong if you put it on a secondary screen and just see if it moves today. You never know. And then on YouTube, Dale was asking, do we like to trade the leverage plays like the TQQQs and the SQQQs? And so I don't personally, but in the room, we do absolutely. Andrew will trade them regularly at the open, for example. If he's seeing a strong move in the market, he likes to take those because he gets a lot more bang for his buck. And can catch these moves one way or the other. And I know we definitely have others like Jared and others in the room that keep an eye on them and actively trade them. So yeah, as a community, yes, indeed, we do trade them.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to add one comment on Oxy's pre-market action usually is like this and can still be very good. So yeah, if you have space, definitely put it on your list there. All right, hey, let's head over to bearbulltraders.com, guys. And if you come up here to the menu bar at the top, you click on webinars, you can see what's coming up for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah. So, and as always, we have a whole slate of activity for you in the room, starting with Mondays, which is always when we get to welcome new members into the room and sort of give you the lay of the land. Our onboarding class happens at 8 o'clock every Monday, and that gives you an opportunity to sort of learn what the community is about, sort of get the highlights as to how you can take advantage of all of the various material we have, from the education to the live trading to the support and psychology resources. So Carlos usually leads that, sometimes with the help of Mike, and that's at 8 o'clock tonight on Mondays. Tuesdays is when we then go and focus on strategy and our trade book. That's an important element of this community about creating a strategic backbone for your trading that you can fall back on, and you know what you're doing. This week, we're going to focus on some specific the specific topic of volume price analysis. Thor is leading that. He always talks about the where, the why, and the how, and he's going to be focusing on the how this week. This dovetails nicely with his book, which is coming out, and it's been eagerly awaited by a lot of members of our community. If you like trading on the volume, price, or Camarilla pivot points, there's nobody better than Thor to sort of give you some information on how that works and answer your questions. And he's always very active in trying to answer everybody's questions. So that's at 8 o'clock tomorrow night, Tuesday night, the 8th, in our webinar room. And then next week, I'm going to have the opportunity to talk to you about journaling. Journaling is an important part of learning what you can get of value out of the day, win or lose. So I'll talk about how you can effectively journal, different types of journals, and maybe give you some ideas you can incorporate into your own journaling process, since it is a very personal element of trading. Wednesdays, we shift our focus to psychology. In the bear bull trading community, we talk a lot about psychology, because as much as it's exciting and interesting to focus on the technical elements of trading, from the strategy to the tools to the process, it's 80% weighted on your effectiveness on how well you manage your brain, what's happening between your ears here. So we're lucky this week to have Creta back with us. That's on Wednesday the 9th. And keep in mind the early time. Whenever we have Creta, because she's coming to us live from Europe, it's always at 5 o'clock versus our 8 o'clock regular time. She's going to talk about how to identify negative thinking and then how to deal with it. I have had personal mentorship from Creta and have loved everything that she's done over the number of years she's been working with us as a community. So that's a not to miss session this coming Wednesday. The Wednesday after that, on the 16th, Mike will be with us talking about how to have a strong and positive money mindset that will build off of what we're doing this week. So, that's also one that you should mark in your calendars so that you can attend with Mike at 8 o'clock on the 16th. That brings us to Thursday, which is all about mentorship. So after we've given the information, the lessons throughout the week, that's when Thursday is when we want to focus on answering your questions. John leads a live mentorship session for all of our elite members in the room, and that happens during market hours at 11 a.m. So keep that in mind. But we usually get a lot of people to go over and get some detailed support. And he picks a topic every week, sort of expands upon it, and then also sort of goes deep dive into your questions. Keep in mind, as a trading community, we answer your questions all the time live, as long as the markets are open. So there's always support happening. We use these webinars as an opportunity to dig deep on specific topics. So that's our in market hours mentorship. And then it's Thor's Day, as we have every Thursday after the market close, at 8 o'clock with Thor. So, and it's always a great session. Tons of people attend that, always with lots of really good questions. So another opportunity to sort of have a sort of live session with one of our leaders here in the room. Don't forget, we have a number of resources that are free to everybody, and we urge you to take advantage of it. Up here on the screen, you've got our trading terminal. Go to tradingterminal.com, and we ask you to log in and register only so that we can sort of get your preferences, and that way when you log in the next time, it'll sort of keep those preferences and sort of give you a personalized experience. But it's got fantastic information. We're adding to it every day. The scanners that we use here in the room are there. I've been watching them all morning as we've been doing the pre-market show, as well as news, where I've been getting the news and that I've been talking to you about, as well as we've got a research tab. We got background information on the schedule, right? What's happening on the calendar side. So we're looking to make it a one-stop shop. So please go in there, see all of the wealth of resources that you got available. And for instance, one of the things that we also do is our stock trading simulator. It's going to be moving under here. You can see the simulator button there on the left-hand menu. That simulator is a great place to go and try out strategies on historic data. You can go back to any stock any day and simulate your trades in that environment, but customizing the indicators you're using and what your charts look like. Fantastic tool. And again, it's all free. So with that, we love having you here, and hopefully you'll consider subscribing with us. If you want to join the chat room live and join the conversation as part of the community, you can do so on a trial membership using the code PreMarket24. That gives you a 1-week $24 trial off from our normal $39. And if you join, as an elite member, then you can get a free one-on-one coaching session with Dr. Kenneth Reed. He's kindly continuing to do this. He loves talking to traders, and as we have more people sign up, he's been giving out a number of these sessions, so it's fantastic. So if you do sign up with an elite annual membership, then you can take advantage of that one-on-one coaching. So with that, we got a few levels to set, and we'll be running out of time before we got to get ready for the opening bell.
All right. Thank you very much, Peter. All right, guys, let's finalize this list here. So right now, at the moment, I have Neo, Meta, AMD, Apple, Tesla, and Amazon. And actually, I like this list, so I'm not going to make a whole lot of changes to it. Our secondary list, BABA, DWAG, GSK, PBR, VRU, and VRU. Look at VRU, man. It actually broke out of 12, hit 1479. So this thing is on fire, and it's rocking and rolling here. What's the float on this? VRU, it is a 64 million shares flow, so not a low float, but moving very aggressive right now, guys. So be very careful on this one, but definitely on the radar. 2 million shares and up 30% now. This thing is cranking. Okay, and then we have GCT, another lower price stock that's also moving very well today. A low flow at 8 million shares, 4.4 million shares traded right now. So all right, let's get to some levels on our main list. Let's start with Neo here, guys. I like Neo. It doesn't look good pre-market right now as far as movement, but the volume has been great, and it has been trading decent when the market opens. Right here, 1222 is the high of the pre-market. Above this level, we do have 1311. I'm going to slam a level there as well. And then towards the bottom, we do have our previous day close, which is pretty much a low of the pre-market also. And then you have the highs and lows for the last 2 trading days on there. I am going to add a level between low of the pre-market and previous day close around 1121. So if you drop that level there, you can see that has been an area where this stock has seen some support resistance in the past. All right, moving down to Meta. Again, a great volume on Meta today. They're up 3.5 with some layoff news and job cuts, which again, for the company is a positive thing because you're reducing operational costs. So 94.57 is the high of the pre-market this morning. Towards the bottom, you got plenty of stuff. Highs and lows from the last 2 trading days. Previous day close. I don't really think you need to add anything down here. The only thing, maybe around 92.55, you got a good midpoint between the high of the pre-market and the low of the pre-market that you've seen support there in the last couple of days. So maybe that might be worth adding on there. Outside of that, I think you're pretty much set when it comes to Meta. Again, looking very good this morning, guys, with some good volume.
And here I'm taking a partial on Meta now because I entered right at the bottom. And no, I just feel like I should be channeling Norm. That's what he would have done, right? But I didn't trade Meta. I wish I had. But.
That is exactly what Norm will be doing right now, taking a trade on Meta right at the bottom. Let's go over to AMD. AMD this morning daily. Again, daily's been interesting, right? Here, just kind of stuck within this range, up and down, every candle overlapping the previous count. Not really AMD like on the daily, right? We're seeing AMD do this type of trading, which is very, very nice. Not the fact that they're diving, but just the way the candles are forming. But here on the daily, guys, towards the top, you do have some levels above the highs of the pre-market and the lows of the pre-market, which are pretty much the highs from yesterday and the lows from two trading days ago. Not yesterday, Friday, and 2 trading days ago. So I look at this chart in the bigger picture. I'm only going to mark down 63.92. I think you have plenty of levels in here. I don't want to make this more complicated than what it needs to be. So just 63.92, and then you have tons of levels on AMD. Taking a look at Apple here. Again, Apple not having a good time at the moment. They are down here 1.3 after a couple of days. It's just, nothing but red on the screen here. 135.45 is the low of the pre-market. Below that, we do have the low, like you mentioned, Peter, of October, right over here and right over here. That's around 134.40. So we saw some support there this morning. No, sorry, that's the pre-market low. We saw some support there on Friday. Yeah, Friday, and then this morning we got 135.46. So let's see what happens after you put these 2 levels down. You look at the daily, you're pretty much set. You don't need anything else on there. Quick look at Tesla, surrounded by the highs and lows of the last 2 trading days. The high of the pre-market is the low from Thursday. I'm going to mark down the low of the pre-market for today at 204.67. And once you do that, I think you're pretty much set. There's a big move here between 220 and 210. And there's a midpoint area that might be worth marking down. That's going to be right here at 214.15, right? You got a lot of days opening, closing right around that area. might be worth having that level there as well. And then last but not least, we have Amazon, guys. Again, it's just I like Amazon today. I think it's been dropping quite a bit. Might be due for a bounce here today, but we'll see how the market's going to treat it this morning. Highs and lows of the last 2 trading days are doing a good job, even covering your pre-market high and low with the previous day close. So don't need to really add anything. Towards the bottom, you got plenty of support levels. The only one I want to add is something above 94 here. It's going to be over at 96.04. And once I put a level there, I think you're pretty much set. And yeah, that's our list. Guys, I see our moderators got, we got a lot of moderators with their list today. They were traveling last week, so we missed their list. But today, they're back in full force here. So let me bring this over. As I am doing this, guys, over on YouTube, hit that thumbs up. We appreciate it very much. Help us with our likes there. It does help the channel. Help to grow our channel and also to show us your appreciation for this show. So we appreciate that very much. All right, let's bring over our mods list. Let's see here. All right, here we go. Let's start with Thor is first on the list, and Thor started proofreading his book. So almost there, guys. We're almost there. We're all looking forward to that release. So Thor, PayPal, SPY, NVIDIA, Apple, and United Airlines. Mike will be watching NVIDIA, BA, both look good on the daily. Eamon looking at potential longs, AMD and Amazon shorts. He's just gonna, is that a ticker open, or he's gonna wait for the open? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. We'll have to figure out if that's a ticker. Andrew will be stocks in play, Apple, and then the news on iPhone, and then usual suspects, guys, TQQ, AMD, NVIDIA, Tesla, and Amazon. We've been watching these tickers for quite a bit. They've been really, really good. I'm not sharing my screen. What happened? My screen went off on the chat?
It did turn off there in the chat.
No, let's not do that. Let's bring that back.
There you go.
Here we go.
There
All right, there we go. That's better. All right, here we are now. And then he's also adding Meta, which looks very good this morning, guys, on news of layoffs. Susan, Meta, Apple, AMD, NVIDIA, Amazon, Baba, still narrowing things down, but that is a very good list already, Susan. And Brian, who'll be trading live today with Andrew, BRU, VERV, which is a different one, Apple, Ying, and Baba. And Brian's been liking Ying quite a lot the last couple of days. Been trading that on his list quite a bit. Jared, Meta, Apple, NVIDIA, secondary list, GCT, VRU, and mRNA. Peter, you have no IPOs for today, and your list, AMD, Apple, Tesla, Baba, Oxy, and DWAC this morning. So great, guys. We have a lot going on this morning. Peter, anything we forgot before we hop off?
No, the only thing I want to add, though, is that good luck to Norm out there in the water. I hope he remembers the basics of sailing. The fin stays wet, the sail stays dry, and if he does that, he should be okay and make it back to port safely.
Absolutely. Guys, over on YouTube, have an amazing day. Trade safe. We're going to join me tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern time for our live onboarding class, completely free. There's a link right on our website. It's also a link that we share with you here in the chat room. And come hang out. We're going to have some fun. We're going to go show you exactly what our community is about. And then we have a Q&A, and we could get into any conversation regarding trading in the community. So I'll see you there at 8 p.m. tonight. And have an amazing trading day, guys. Take care.
Take care, everyone.